Well, welcome to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars, whether you want to talk about the Star Wars news, or you want to hear from amazing guests, or you want to take a deep dive with us on a topic. You know what? We do all three of those things. We do them all. Nick, we do them all. How are you feeling this Thursday evening?
I am excited,
Okay.
as always,
All right.
because Thursday nights are one of my favorite nights of the week. Getting to sit down, have a talk, have a drink, have a chat,
Yeah.
all of that fun stuff. And I have to say, just a little peek behind the curtain, you sent me that new intro video, which is very, very well done, by the way. Good job out of you.
Thank you.
You sent that to me earlier this week. And, you know, it's almost like maybe this is my version of the Mandela effect.
Right.
That last quote by Irvin Kershner, of course, have admired Irvin Kershner for many years because of his work in the original trilogy. But until I saw that and I saw it pop up and I had to go fact check it, I think I've spent a better part of my life thinking it was Irving Kershner, not Irvin Kershner. And so when I looked at it, I was like, I don't think that's right. And I'm going to have to be the a-hole that texts you and says, hey,
were you fact checking me?
I was fact checking you. Fact check Milky. And then I looked it up and went, oh, yeah, I'm wrong, or I've maybe been wrong. But anyhow, it's a great video, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Well, I always have to check, like, does JJ have two periods between the J's?
That's right.
And I always am afraid that I'm going to type Rain Johnson. So, but
all those little things that can creep up on you, you know, when your phone doesn't correct defiantly from definitely. You know, I am defiantly going to be there.
Well, every ducking time. It does it every ducking time. So, Nick, we're doing our ATG Live. If you joined us on Tuesday, we did a 3-hour marathon, which was it was insane. It was fun. We talked about the sequel trilogy and all 6 parts of that. We broke it up into bite-sized morsels because you know, watching us for 3 straight hours is it's difficult. I understand. But if you want to go check it out, we broke it up into 6 pieces. You can find that right now on the channel. But Nick, speaking of the channel, why don't you give us a little bit of the housekeeping?
Yes. Quick, sweet, to the point. The way the housekeeping works these days is the sswnetwork.com.
That's it.
It is literally your one-stop shop for everything we do. Merchandise, streams, videos, podcast feed, YouTube channel.
Plus you can find all this stuff right there.
Plus you can find, use these things on the side. We're trying to make it easy for you. It's kind of like when you go to a meeting and they hand something out and then they proceed to read you every word of every page of the meeting. I'm like, you handed it to me and I know how to read. Why are we doing this?
Right.
We don't want to do that. So the sswnetwork.com, all the things there, especially I will call attention to our Patreon program. We have a wonderful group of patrons who support us. We would love for you to join us there as well. You'll get access to interviews when we do them early, swag sent out to you a few times a year, other special things as they come along. We'd love to have your support, and we thank those of you that already support us as our weird space friends as a part of this family.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for everybody who hangs out. Also, if you are interested in our merch, we are working on it. So again, if you watched the show the other night, we have a Jakku USA t-shirt, which is going to be finished in the next couple days, and TW McKay is going to get one because he came up with it. But we're going to have some merch there. But use the code SHILL15. And you're going to get 15% off. Speaking of shills, we have some guests tonight.
We have some shills joining us. Some of the OG shills are guests tonight.
We have Holly and Brian Frey. They were at the Acolyte premiere just last week. I was meant to be there, but was not able to pull it off. So I'm going to just sit here and just be jealous as hell while they speak to us about it. But I'm really excited to hear from them about that. And then we're going to take a deep dive into some of the comments that we have seen today. Specifically, it was an interesting day. Some comments, some quotes from Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland have lit fire to the usual pieces of toxicity in the fandom, but I might take a slightly unexpected perspective on it. So stick with us for that after Brian and Holly. And Nick, I know we got some news stories, but before we do, you wanted to do a little toast. You wanted to?
I thought we haven't done a toast in a while. I thought it was worth bringing back one of my favorite little traditions, little pastimes. You know, I guess the pastime is just drinking itself, but so tonight, in honor of bringing back the toast, I have my Auburn University tumbler with a little shot of whiskey in it.
Nice.
I'm raising a toast to toasts, not only to the bread itself, but the pastime of raising a glass and offering, a cheers, a slanja, whatever it is that you might have. I forgot the one. What was the one from Andor that we used for a while?
So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Somebody in the chat will fact check us. And on that note, the other part of my toast is our friends that hang out with us. We have our friends that come in from YouTube, our patrons that I mentioned earlier. But also we have had a ton of folks joining us on Twitter in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Even if we don't get your comments, which we're going to work on, we're going to figure out how to get those comments over here. But I want to raise this glass to you as well for joining us, being a part of the family, hanging out. We appreciate you. So cheers and happy Star Wars.
Happy Star Wars. Yeah, man, it has been a while since we did the toast. I'm glad it's back.
That's right. Bringing it back.
It's summertime, and it's always
that's right.
It's good for us to do that. But
we have long work days, things at the end of the week. It's time for that toast.
Well, there are a couple news stories, and we want to get to them. So let's hit the news. Well, first up, and it will be the only time we talk about anything probably other than Acolyte tonight. You realize, like, this time next week, we will have all seen the first two episodes.
Yep.
But we're going to talk a little bit about Andor, because Adria Arjona, is that the right way to say her name? I'm probably
Adria Arjona, perhaps.
Adria Arjona. There we go.
We're both very white and not good at Spanish.
That's right. Yes, she is out promoting her new film called Hitman. And of course, if you're in a Star War and you're out promoting anything, they say, hey, tell us about the Star War. And so she was talking a little bit about season 2. She confirmed that there will be a significant time jump of roughly 1 year every 3 episodes. And she talked, which I think we kind of knew from Star Wars Celebration. I think Tony Gilroy had mentioned that was sort of the plan, but she explained that there's a challenge to changing, to sort of maturing on screen a year every 3 episodes. She pointed out that, you're aging subtly, and you're a very different person than I was a year ago, but to many other people I might not be. But the buildup is coming. She says that this season will take Cassian Andor's story right up to the events of Rogue One, bridging the gap in an innovative way. I'm very excited to see what that means. She said, quote, Tony Gilroy had a whole season to get to the end of Rogue One, and he's like, how am I going to do it? She loved working with Tony Gilroy. She said he is one of the most brilliant minds she's ever had the honor of picking. The structure for season 2 was one that I've never heard of anybody else doing. It is due to hit in 2025. Originally, we were going to see it at the end of this year, but the strikes ended up pushing, as you know, a lot of this content out a bit. It certainly ramps up my excitement. It's funny, I forget about Andor every couple of weeks, and then something like this pops up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I am so psyched for Andor. Nick, what are your thoughts on and expectations for Andor?
I have tried in the last several years to get out of the expectations game, because, it's one thing to have a prediction. It's one thing to make the silly bets that we like to make about, ooh, this thing's going to happen, and that we are always wrong. Other than I have to give a moment to shout it out. Your predictions on release dates for all of the things that have been coming this way so far, you have basically, you're at like 95%.
I hit the release date.
That 5% deficit is really just a matter of like days on either side.
Like a week. And I also I found it today when I posted an article earlier today, and I found my article about predicting that there was going to be an Acolyte scene attached to the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Look, I am a seer.
That's right.
Always in motion.
If you could only see.
I've been looking for the lottery tickets, and I'm not picking them.
Yep, that's it. We need to go to Georgia and get some lottery tickets. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I don't really have expectations. Obviously, I have a little bit of expectation in the sense that I've seen Andor season 1. I know how great it is. So there's no reason not to expect more of that greatness and, high level storytelling. Beyond that, I'm intrigued by the idea of, these time jumps in a unique way. What does that mean? And of course, more than anything else, I'm ready for K2SO to make his appearance and be a part of this somewhere along this line. Yeah, I mean, bring on Andor and time jumps. We knew that was coming. We learned that at Celebration in Anaheim when we were at that panel.
Yep.
And they talked about, the second series every 3 years is going to jump. So that wasn't a surprise, but it's also nice to hear they've stuck with the plan that they had.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing. And I'm really curious to see. I hope that I don't know the character's name off the top of my head, but the guy that Cassian guns down on the rings of Kafrene.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we get to know him beforehand, because I want to be more devastated. I was already shocked.
Even more weight to that.
Yeah, I was already shocked that it was like, oh, that's one of his guys. And then he did that. So yeah, let's bring that on. Let's get more. I'm excited. I can't wait to see more bricks and screws. Give me more Cassian Andor.
That's right. Let's smash some more things.
So, Nick, you got a story for us?
Yes, we have another news story tonight. And this one is, like you said, we're going to spend pretty much the rest of the evening talking about the Acolyte. Acolyte announces North American theatrical release on June 3rd. Some details have confirmed. This news dropped 2 days ago, maybe, that we saw it.
I think it might have been yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah. Yep.
Select North American venues will be showing the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte on June 3rd, 24 hours before they are set to premiere on Disney+. Lucasfilm announced today, which was yesterday. A couple of things that I think about this are really neat. One, it's going to be free if you RSVP to go, which is a different kind of move.
Thanks to one of our patrons, I will be going and seeing it with our friend Brian Fantasy. I'm going to make the trip.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, it says, however, in this announcement, Disney is distributing tickets for free as long as you RSVP in advance here at this link. By the time you're reading this, the tickets may all already be sold out. I can assure you, I looked it up. Obviously, I live in Alabama. We don't get these things. We didn't get the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary screening, which I'm still bitter about. We did get Phantom Menace, so we don't miss everything, but we miss most of the things. But this one was not in a theater in Alabama at all. I was a little bit surprised. It was just at one theater in Atlanta. But there are 26 theaters around the country where this event is taking place on the 3rd. And as of now, or as of 45 minutes ago when I looked it up, every single one of them is listed as sold out. I know our friend Chris in Philly is trying to get to the one at King of Prussia Mall. I know you and Brian are going to be able to make it. So this is an exciting event. And I think this is an exciting thing. We've talked a little bit about this. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit with Brian and Holly. This series has been marketed, it feels like more lately, a lot more like a movie.
Yeah.
And I think this plays into that. While I don't remember any movies, giving out nationwide screenings and, things for free, but it's a great take, and it's a great way to get some more folks involved. I also think that it leads to the theory that you and I discussed while I was in New Jersey during Podathon, and we talked about it on the show the other day. So, Pete, please remind everyone this idea that you have pitched to our friends at Star Wars vaguely, and why I agree with you.
Yes, and if they'll give me a meeting, I will pitch it in more detail, and I'll do it on a PowerPoint presentation, and I promise I won't read it word for word as we discussed at the top of the show.
What is this? The U.S. Air Force PowerPoint? Let's go.
I think I would love to see them do something where they put each episode out in theaters on the night that it drops, and charge $5 to go. I think it makes a lot of sense. It does a number of things. Number one, it creates, first of all, seeing Star Wars on the big screen. When we saw the one scene from the Acolyte during the Phantom Menace, it was amazing. A lot of us have seen Star Wars on the big screen. We saw the Kenobi premiere in California. Star Wars TV on the big screen works. It's designed, it's built and shot that way, so it really works. Second thing is, it would really build some nice camaraderie. I think, if you, every Wednesday you're to go to the theater, you're going to see the same people. And you know what? If I can't make this Wednesday, that's okay. I got it on Disney Plus. I'll watch it anyway, but I'll be back next week, and I'll start to get to know people locally who are Star Wars fans, rekindle that sort of solidarity and community that comes with it. The final piece is, it's great for movie theaters. I don't have any theories on why movies have bombed like Furiosa and beaten by Garfield, I think, this past week or close to it. But movie theaters need people in there. They need butts and seats. And for $5, it's better than 0 people in the theaters. Plus, they're going to sell popcorn. They're going to sell sodas. They're going to sell candies, and make it an event. Make it bring people back to the theaters, even if it's to watch a TV show that you can watch for free at home, right?
That's right. They're going to sell their 2 highest margin money makers, which are popcorn and soft drinks.
Yep.
Like
every
13
week
cents out of their pocket that you're paying $8 for. Like, it's a money maker. People will do it. People will go, and it just creates, like you said, that community. And I think that a great testament to that is when we went to the Phantom Menace in New Jersey while I was up for Podathon.
Yep.
We were at the theater that day. It was Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon,
Friday
afternoon, 1:00. And I had on my Bad Batch hat, and a random stranger who, of course, I've never met before because it's my first time in New Jersey, but she stopped and we had an entire conversation about the Bad Batch finale because she saw my hat and went, "Hey, this is one of my tribe. What did you think about this? This left me in tears. I was so excited." It does create those opportunities. And I have friends in town that are people I already know that I know are Star Wars fans, but it has the opportunity to, like you said, create some really great community in local areas. So
and when
Disney, we need this to happen.
We need this to happen. And when I posted something about this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, somebody said they don't want to take a movie out of the theater to put this in there for one night. And I was just on the phone with a friend of mine. He said to me, "Have you seen Furiosa yet?" I said, "No, I definitely want to see it." And he said, "Let's go tomorrow night." So the 8:30 show tomorrow night at the theater that we went to see Phantom Menace, which is a beautiful theater.
Right.
The 8:30 show for Furiosa, when I got the chance to select my seats, I shit you not, there was not one seat taken on a Friday night. So they're not missing anything. And at $5
movie
a pop
theaters
plus soda
are
and
taking
popcorn,
a beating. I think movie theaters are taking a beating right now. And I think a lot of it has to do with, how quickly things get released to streaming. I don't have to wait that long.
Right.
Same thing. When we went to Dial of Destiny opening night, 7:00 on a Friday night here in Montgomery. And there were I took all of my girls, one of my best friends, and somebody else met us there. I think there were 7 or 8 of us.
Yep.
There may have been 23 people in the movie theater
Yep.
on an opening night of an Indiana Jones movie.
Yep.
Which was fine. We had great seats. We enjoyed ourselves, but movie theaters are not what they used to be. And to think $5 and some, I guarantee you the local, and these are local franchises. That's the other thing. Local franchisees, I think, would be behind this. Ship it to me on an email on a zip drive, plug it in, run it one night. They're going to get a whole little crew of people that would come in and give them a tiny little bump.
And from a pure marketing standpoint, again, I mean, people, you love movies, you love shows more when you can talk about them and you can be in the room together. And then you look forward to meeting those people again next week and, leave you on a cliffhanger.
And more people are going to come because if you're being honest, Montgomery, Alabama on a Wednesday night, if they made $300 from some Star Wars people coming, watching this movie and buying some concessions, I would almost be willing to bet that's more money than they would make in the rest of that theater that whole night.
Without a doubt, 100%. I think that's 100% correct.
So we've solved that. We can go ahead and mark it off the list. And
all right,
we can keep
Lucasfilm, Disney, go ahead and do it. And
now it's time to get to our friends.
You just don't even have to thank me. All right, we're gonna take a real quick break, and when we come back with more ATG Live, we have 2 of our good friends hanging out and ready to tell us about their journey to Los Angeles to see the Acolyte on the big screen, and with some famous people and some other friends of ours. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Brian and Holly Frey with more ATG Live. Well, welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. There's other shows out there. Go watch them when we're done here. That's cool. We love it. We love the Star Wars community. But this is the place to talk about news, to talk about current events in Star Wars, to get some deep dives, and also to talk to some guests. So, Nick, without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guests. Look who it is.
There they are.
They're calling from the cantina.
We are.
It's Holly and Brian. They got drinks in hand. They've
Do
got.
y'all have matchy?
Come on, Pete.
Oh,
you failed us.
Oh, I'm actually washing my Koba's cantina right now, but
You've got the same beard, so
yes, right. This is
that totally works.
I was really hoping Holly was going to have like just a fake beard that she could like wear just to join this group.
Yeah. Welcome to the Star Wars Beard Cast. It's so great to see both of you, as always. You are two of the most world travel-y people that I think that I know. I know, certainly since Podathon, Brian called in. We heard from y'all while y'all were at Galaxy's Edge for Star Wars Day. Since then, you have been to LA, you have been to New York, you've had birthdays. Like, you are out there, out in the streets, as these kids say. And we're so thankful to get to see you tonight. How's everybody doing?
We're doing
good.
Yeah.
Recovering.
Yeah. It's been a wild few weeks for us. So it's nice to just sit and hang and actually be in our cantina relaxed.
Yes.
Well, if ever there's a statement I look forward to uttering one day in my life, it's being in my cantina and relaxing.
Sitting in your seat, Nick.
Yeah.
It's in your seat. He is in your seat.
That's right. He's in my seat. That's where we were. That's where all the fun happened. Well, you guys went out to LA last week. You got to go to the Acolyte premiere. We're going to get to that in a few minutes, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about, because you guys have done this a bunch. And as I was thinking about this conversation this afternoon, I had that little moment. I was like, man, I can't wait till I get to go to a premiere of like a Disney thing. And then I stopped and went, oh, wait, I went to the Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere that was at Celebration. That was actually the premiere, for that show, which was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we didn't
talk to us. Y'all weren't able to get to that one?
We did not get to it.
Oh, man.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of your past experience doing this. Maybe what was, y'all have been to a bunch of these. I know you went to Dial of Destiny back this summer. Tell us a little bit about, what was the first premiere that you guys got to go to? What was it like getting that first official invite? Kind of wind us back, and maybe what are some of the favorites over the years that y'all have gotten to experience?
I think you think we've been to more than we have. Because I think Dial of Destiny was the first one that worked.
Really?
Oh, nice.
In terms of timing and whatnot.
Sure.
There had been a couple others that Full of Sith got invited to, though it was really Brian, and it was like, well, maybe I could go, and it didn't work out. So I think that was our first one, right?
Yeah.
We had gotten invited to Willow, and I don't remember what the conflict was, but it was like, wah, wah, this isn't going to happen. I think I had a work thing, probably. So yeah, Dial of Destiny was the first one we actually got to see.
Yeah.
That's great.
And, generally it's like, I think this has happened for all of them. You get an email that is a little bit cryptic that just says, save the date this date.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're like,
right. I mean, the math is not difficult at that point to be like, what could be going on? In this case, I had a moment of panic because we had already had a very front-loaded, like we had a lot on our schedule already when I got that. And I was like, SpaghettiOs. I guess we just won't sit down for 2 weeks. We'll just go and go and go. And we did. But it's always exciting. It's always very thrilling, and it's really delightful to be included on those lists.
Yes, I had gotten the invite, and I was planning to go, and I had actually, Holly, I think I was speaking a little bit to you.
We were supposed to have dinner, and you stood us up.
I stood us up. Well, you blame my dog. Blame my dog. So I had to.
You're okay, yes?
She's fine now. Yeah, but she was she put us in a little bit of a scare, and so anyway, I wasn't able to go, but I have to say one of the great things, and it's funny, you see the different attitudes and the different perspectives online of people who are. And I even posted something about it. It's probably inappropriate to post, but like there's a difference between being really happy to see your friends there versus being just pissed off that I didn't get my invite.
Yeah.
And I loved this particular premiere because so many people that we all knew were there. Tell us about running into people that you primarily know through social media and through your Star Wars online connections. And what was that like, getting to see them at this exciting opportunity?
And more than one person came up to me and was like Nick Deers. He was like, "Hey, finally get to meet you in person." And
a lot of people that you've interacted with in online, and then it's fun to just chat with them in their actual voice.
Yeah.
In real meet space. That's, I think, probably the best thing about it is you don't get that kind of sheen of your online persona.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really felt kind of lovely and beautiful for this one in particular is that it felt, even for people that I had literally never met in person, haven't even necessarily like had conversations through DMs or anything, but just people we've interacted with online. This one, Indy was really wonderful and very celebratory, but this one felt like a family reunion where you're like, oh my gosh, you're that cousin that I know, and we haven't really had a chance to hang and talk, but like, your blood, and let's go hang out and we'll chat about stuff. And it really felt that way kind of across the board. It was just a great vibe. Everybody was super excited to be there. There was also one of the things that Lucasfilm did was they had a little meet and greet ahead of time for people to get coffee in the afternoon before the premiere that night. And that was like that was a super great move because it meant that like there were some people that I didn't have context for at all, but we got to meet them ahead of time and chat briefly and hang out. And so by the time we were all, dressed and ready to go and hanging out at the premiere, everybody felt like friends already. And it was a really, really nice way to on-ramp the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think that seeing that, like you said, seeing those pictures, seeing Chase, seeing Tori, seeing, all these different people we know, seeing Kyle Katarn, he got to go do the, kind of extra, screening stuff and tour, some of those folks that, again, Alex and Molly getting to go, there are several layers to it, but even just like a lot of those red carpet pictures that came out, it was, Lee Jung Jae and Leslie Headland, but in the background, I'm like, hey, I know that person back there. Like it was that fun, thing that we get to watch. And I think that we are also in this mode. And I think maybe part of why this one felt different and more special. And even like you said, for those of us that were at home, excited to watch it play out and see all the pictures, was we didn't get the Ahsoka premiere because the strike was going on. So there wasn't that event. If we dial back after that, like I know there was an Andor premiere. We saw some, that was before, but like we've come out of COVID. We've had some shows, Mando 3. We've had some things come out, but we've still are just on the outside edge of like normalizing everything. And right as we get out of COVID and we're like, okay, now we get back to some of these fun parties. Wait, the strike's going to keep us from doing this one. Like there were a couple of things that got in the way. So this one, I think, had that vibe of like, we're really back. Like we can really, hang out and have a good time. And I think that came through in so many of those pictures. What were, it seemed like the cast was really accessible and fun, certainly on the red carpet, kind of people passing by. Were y'all able to, have any little passing conversations, take pictures?
Didn't see one of them.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, really?
Not a one. I think what happened was that we are well-behaved children. So when security comes through and they're like, hey, everybody get in your seats, we were like, okay. And so we just went. And really what's happening is like the last 20 key people are going to come in after that. And so some people are smart and hang, but I'm just programmed to be like, all right, yes, sir.
Yep. I would have been right there with you. Yeah.
Also,
I'm a rule follower.
Popcorn, frankly, I just really wanted my popcorn. So.
One of those lightsaber churros.
Yes.
I didn't have one of those. Did you have one?
Yes, I did. It's a lightsaber churro.
I mean, I understand. But...
yeah, free popcorn and churros. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I was just like buried in my popcorn. I didn't even.
I'm hoping for the lightsaber churros at the screening on Monday night in King of Prussia. But
Thanks.
Leftovers. We'll take your leftovers. That's fine. We don't care. We're not picky.
That's right.
But as Nick was saying, and the between sort of the fan get together beforehand, and really the way they made it an event for the fans as well, it feels like this film this show is getting a different type, or I was going to say different, but it's almost like major motion picture level promotional launch. What do you guys think? Does it feel like that to you?
Yes, very much. It's felt. trepidatious to use this word because it sounds not as delightful as it is. It's felt very strategic and smart, where there has been, it feels as though there's been a lot of thought going into, okay, where have we maybe not given enough juice to something coming out that let it be not a big focal moment, not a really exciting moment in, the fandom or whatever, and that they have really course corrected and found a lot of ways. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff with various influencers and online content creators to create new content where those people have access to cast and crew, things they normally would never get to see as part of their run up to it.
Right.
And I really think they're being super smart because this is so unique. We don't know any of these characters. We don't know any of this stuff.
Right. And the plot is a mystery.
Yeah. So it's I just think they're being extremely smart in getting people really excited about new things that we have no context for, right? Like normally you would be like, well, I'm very excited because I love Mandalorians already, or
right.
I love, but this one there's no hook in necessarily unless you just love Jedi and of course High Republic. But even so, these are characters we don't know from any of that,
right,
with the exception of Ernesto Rowe.
Yep. Well, to me, it's I still think so far it's had the best tagline of any of the shows so far, and that is before the Empire, before the Menace, there was the Acolyte, and that is setting people, because I think, and I've said it before on the show, I've said it actually last week, I say it way too often, but I think that's the biggest challenge that Disney and Lucasfilm have, is they present these phenomenal stories, but to the 85% of the world that just likes the word Star Wars and they'll go and check it out. Yeah. They don't know that. I still remember vividly friends of mine saying, so is this Jin person, is she Rey's mother? Is that, and it was like, so there with that, but this, I mean, it's clear now. I think you don't have to be a Star Wars fan to any level beyond having seen movies to know that, okay, it's before the Phantom Menace, it's before the Empire. Got it. Cool. Give me some Jedi. Right.
Yeah. So, one, I think that's extremely smart, right? Because there are, I'm sure you have both run up against this when you're talking to people socially about stuff. There are those moments where people feel a little lost in the timeline and they're like, I don't know. I remember when Solo came out, having a conversation with someone and them not grasping where it fell at all, even though that's seemed to us obvious. Of course, that's young Han Solo. That's happening back here. But to regular people that don't live and eat and breathe this stuff, they were like, I don't know where this fits. That tagline is so smart because it basically sets up, you don't have to know nothing. This is all new. Like, great.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. And it's neat to see something, Pete and I used the Our Dad, litmus test half the time. How are our dads going to appreciate this thing that comes out? Because they like Star Wars, but they don't read books. They haven't done animation. They haven't, done any of that stuff. So I saw my dad yesterday and he goes, so we have the Acolytes coming out soon, right? And I was like, well, it's Acolyte singular, but yes, it's coming out. He's like, okay, I need to make sure I got my Disney Plus working. Like he's, gung-ho and ready to go. But it is, but the marketing has worked for him. He's seen it on, the commercials that have been on TV. Like if he sees a trailer, it's because I texted it to him. But other than that, those broad, spectrum things are coming out. Obviously, y'all are excited for the show. Brian and I were texting last night, and he was saying, this is, it feels different. It's got some good vibes to it. We don't want to be spoilery. I know that the media embargo-y things have dropped, but give us a couple of kind of vague, what's exciting about it for you guys with this particular show, what you saw.
Keep it vague.
Leslie Headland.
That's exactly what it is.
If you watched Russian Doll, you might have an inkling of what to expect from her method of storytelling. It's very intriguing. It's very quick. And you will probably be surprised. I hope you will be surprised.
Yeah. I will say, and I was asking Brian if I should say this because I have said this to a few friends, and I definitely don't want to be spoilery, but like I certainly in the lead up had seen a lot of fan theories online based on what we have seen in the marketing and whatnot. And what's really great is the yay or nay on whether or not a lot of those play out happens right at the top. So it's like, oh, we haven't actually solved or ferreted out anything that's going to ruin this show.
Sure.
We don't know where this. I mean, we saw 2 episodes, and I still feel like I have no idea what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is definitely going to break our brains at some point. I'm pretty sure, because it feels very straightforward in the beginning. Which again, if you watch Leslie Headland's work, that means like the left turn is coming. But
right, hold on.
Maybe it won't be left. Maybe you'll go vertical. I don't know.
Like she's gathering up the rug, ready to yank.
Yeah. The editing of it is
buckle
really,
up, Buttercup.
Is also really fun because it gives you that sense of like, all right, okay, I guess we'll figure that out later, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, and it's neat to see. I'm glad to hear you say that, because one of the things, and we've gotten used to this, and again, we have to take, and as many times as people complain, or Jeff's in the chat, and Jeff has become one of my friends who always is like, I'm not watching any trailers, I'm not watching anything, and he does it partially for the expectation game. I very much admire people that will do full blackout. I'm not watching a trailer. I'm trying not to look at anything. I don't do that, but I also have learned, and Lucasfilm and Marvel both have done a really good job of doing this. You're going to get a trailer for something, and you're like, holy crap, look at all these things. And then by the time you see whatever that thing is, you're like, oh, this is the first 16 minutes of the movie. Everything in this trailer. Or like Andor or Ahsoka. We're 2 episodes into Ahsoka, and we've seen everything in the trailers. Like, it's become a conversation point, certainly on recap shows, which we don't really do recap shows much anymore, but like Pete and I'll text and we're like, okay, we've now officially seen everything that was in the trailer, and we've got 6 more episodes to go. And I like that because it gives you something to be excited about, but we also know there's so much more here than we think we're getting. And that's a good way to do stories.
I mean, we're old fogies at this point, all of us, and consumed a lot of this stuff over the decades. And I, of course, always love when I'm surprised by something. And these 2 episodes have surprised me. So I really love that.
Excited. And this isn't, Qui-Gon's noble end listed on the back of the soundtrack for The Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
I'm still so mad at that.
I mean, for anyone who is struggling with whether or not they want to watch trailers or any of the promo stuff, I don't think it's going to ruin a thing. They've been so judicious about what they are actually sharing. That
they're professionals. They know what they're doing.
You can get hyped, and you're not going to have anything really given away.
Absolutely. Well, I want to put up a couple of things. First of all, you guys, and I don't know if everybody that's watching knows this, Holly is a wizard, literally, in so many things, whether it's drinks, being an amazing podcaster, but the clothes and the sewing, and you guys, y'all do stuff, y'all do all your, when you've done Star Cruiser stuff, when you go to Disney, it's important that people get to see that this was the fit for premiere night. I'm all but certain, Holly, you probably made a lot or most of these outfits.
I made mine. Brian put his whole thing together, like he shopped that.
Look at him.
Well, he is also a fantastic
He's a
person
dapper and stylish dude.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
based on the Jedi costumes in the Acolyte.
Yeah,
of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
with a little bit of a Tony Stark nod with the glasses, maybe.
Always.
A little bit, yeah.
Always.
The yellow lenses match.
Yeah. It's so funny because you got those glasses for dirt cheap on Amazon, and people act like he's the most stylish man. They're like, those glasses are incredible. I'm like,
Five Below, baby. That's all it takes. We've got a couple more. We've got Holly and Kay.
I made both of those dresses.
See, there you go. Again, you're representing on so many levels here, and we can't have a picture of Holly and Kay without this picture.
This is not a good one. I did not make that jacket.
It seems to be the most appropriate way to get a picture of Pablo.
Yeah.
Slightly obscured, being himself. We've got this one. We've got y'all with our friend Chase.
Chase looked so amazing that night. He had like costume changes.
Did he?
That's awesome.
Well, we saw him at the pre-gathering, and he looked spectacular. And I told him I wanted to play with him like a Dapper Dan because everything looks sparkly and beautiful. And then he had a dressed up version for the thing, and then when we ran into them afterwards out and about, he had on another version of his outfit.
I love that so much. Well, I have one more. And this one at this point, like Disney marketing, you need to call this guy because Brian Frey, bringing the artistic touch to, all the different cool things that he does with all these secret hidden talents. You both are two of the more talented people that I know. And so when he sent me this picture, I was like, it's going to end up a wallpaper on my computer at some point. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's inside the El Capitan. I've now been inside that and the Dolby Theater across the street where the Indiana Jones premiere was. That's apparently like premiere alley next to the Chinese theater.
And are there pipes for that organ? Is that a straight up pipe organ that's in that
theater?
There
was an organist playing
the El Capitan
a little prelude.
Yeah, it was
amazing. It's fantastic. When they dipped into some Star Wars themes, the audience just went nuts and lightsabers came on. And it was
yeah, it's very fun.
It's fantastic. That's so fantastic. Sorry, Jinx, Pete, you can be quiet now. It's so great. It's so great that y'all get to have these experiences and we get to see, all the cool things that are going on. Before we get done, y'all are world travelers. You are all over the place. Holly, I know you've got stuff with Full of Sith. I know you've got other projects. What are you working on that you can tease for us, that you can tell us about? I know there's a certain piece of literature floating out in the ether that
can't talk about it yet. There's, I know, I'm like, ooh, if some things.
I just need mine. Maybe by Dragon Con. Maybe I can. No, maybe. We'll talk later. Go ahead.
Everything will be publicly known at that point. But yeah, I mean, I'm just working on things, just doing things.
That's cool. Well, and let me shout this out too. And Pete, I feel like you're probably about to do this. Podathon was a couple weeks ago, and you and other Brian, y'all were so wonderful to do some fantastic interviews with Matt Martin and Pablo for Podathon. Those were such great parts of that day. Certainly helped contribute to, the fundraising that we were able to do for Make-A-Wish. And so we're so thankful that y'all were willing to do that as Full of Sith and contribute to that day.
Our great pleasure. Those are fun conversations to have. So it's not like you have to twist our arms.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you both.
It was great. And I loved that the Pablo conversation, we knew somebody was going to pick up on some of that stuff and just run with it, which is, I don't know how Pablo does. Well, this is probably why he doesn't do podcasts, because he knows he can get on there and say, I like Star Wars, and somehow Variety and Comic Book and whatever is going to say, Pablo Hidalgo likes Star Wars is what it means. So, but it was great. And Brian speaking to Matt was fantastic. And the show Full of Sith is so great. You guys just dropped an episode that had Rick McCullum. Is that right?
Yeah, Brian had a conversation with him. I was not in that one.
Is that a recent conversation with Rick?
Yes. It was one he did a little while back. I want to say it's like a month or a month and a half back. For some as part of coverage for some other outlets, and was finally able to share that audio. So
that's fantastic.
Super fun. That
is so cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's always good to see pieces of the Cantina. It's always great to see the two of you, and cheers to you both. And thank you so much. And I can't wait till we can all talk about what you've seen at the Acolyte. I was saying to Nick, this time next week we'll all have seen it. We'll all have started the journey together.
Well, also, I feel like I should say there's an open invite if you ever want to do a live show from the Cantina. Just as long as we're in town, just come down and we'll.
Oh man, shouldn't have said. Hey, Podathon 25.
All right. Well, so we're gonna have to do some coordinating offline, because I have a secret plan to try and convince Pete to come to Dragon Con this year, because I just found out I will be there.
Great.
And I actually feel like his wheels are already turning, because I said, hey, I just found I'm going to Dragon Con. We should do something. And he said, when is that again? And I went, he's thinking about it. So
that will be insane.
I just updated the menu. There's new stuff. You got to come taste it all.
As someone who has been in Cabe's Oasis my own very self, it's worth every bit of travel you may need to do to get there. The hospitality is, if I can TripAdvisor Cabe's Oasis, just send me the link. I'm going to do it. In fact, maybe I need to create that when we get done tonight. Except you have to put an address in. We probably don't want to do that.
No,
but yes, it's totally legit, and it's so fantastic. Thank y'all so much for taking some time to hang out with us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it so much. Thank you. Happy Star Wars, and we will see you guys again soon, our weird space friends. And we'll be back in just a minute with more ATG Live. Welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. I love Brian and Holly, and I think here's the thing about Brian, and I only got to meet him once, and it was at Star Wars Celebration, but I've met him a million times online. And at Celebration, he saw that Jack, my son, had made his own lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge, and he gave Jack an extra kyber crystal, and so he now has 2 different colors that he can choose from, and I'll never forget that. And Jack will never forget it either. Jack's like that guy with the beard who gave us the thing. So
well, that guy with the beard is always a great way to start most everything.
I think
but truly one of the kindest, most generous, wonderful, just our people. That's what I like to say. They're our people. I got the great opportunity to visit Cabe's Oasis last year during Dragon Con. Brian drove through Atlanta traffic, which is no small feat, to come pick me up from my hotel, bring me to hang out. Holly made me drinks. I got to see all of the collections, and there's multiple bars in their house, not just Cabe's Oasis. There's other bars, which again, things I'm aspiring to in life are multiple bars in my house. But by the time it was over, I was leaving with like a shopping bag of like, hey, here's some figures. Do you have this? Take this. Here's some Indiana Jones. Like, so kind, so generous. Just, again, some of my favorite people, because they love Star Wars, and they, are people, and we love real people who love Star Wars. That's who we are and try to be.
Absolutely. And we love people who love Star Wars, but we don't love people who use it as an opportunity to pull some bullshit, which is what we're going to get to in our ATG Live deep dive.
It's second week in a row, and it's still making me laugh. So that one's got to keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, kind of silly.
So we're gonna touch on this, and we're definitely gonna be watching the chat on this, because we're gonna want to hear and see what you have to say. But over, I think it was the last 24 hours. I feel like I woke up to it. I don't recall it yesterday, but that's because things have been a blur. But we're back to the toxicity stuff that we continue to see. It's become sort of an expected piece of everything Star Wars lately, and it's depressing, and it's tough, and it's strange, because I think only people like you and I see it because of, and by you and I mean people who are on social media, part of the Star Wars communities that are active. Because honestly, I don't think it's as pervasive to people who don't keep an eye on that sort of thing. But Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy had a couple comments in a New York Times article that was promoting, of course, the Acolyte, and to put people back on their heels. I'm going to pull up one or two of the quotes here. Hang on a second. Kathleen said, "A loud primordial part of the Star Wars fandom has pushed back in predictable fashion against the show. Why are there so many women, girls, and minority characters increasingly dominating the ranks of the Jedis?" Jedi reads a comment on the Acolyte trailer. Some trolls have called it the Wokalite, and my favorite quote is from Leslie Headland, who says, "As a fan myself," and there's multiple pieces to this quote, so I want to take this quote apart because I think it's important. As a fan myself, she says, "I know how frustrating some Star Wars storytelling in the past has been." Okay, good. So what she's saying there is she's agreeing. Not every single story that's come out in the last 5-10 years has been brilliant, has been perfect, or been in line with what we might expect. She said, "I felt it myself." So she's a fan, and that's been proven. She's been out on the carpet. She's been talking about it. She
just to add to that,
yeah.
If you've seen the video that came out today of her and Dave Filoni,
yeah,
oh my gosh, like I watched it 3 times. It's 2.5 minutes, but it's 2 people who clearly are Star Wars fans who love Star Wars and are able to create Star Wars. And that conversation, I think I tweeted it. Like, this is what it's about. And, she has the bona fides to do what she's doing. No question about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. And she even goes on to say, "I stand by my empathy for Star Wars fans," meaning, hey, guys, I get it. We're all there. I mean, we just did a whole 3 hours on the sequel trilogy. However, she says, "But I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan." Now, this is very similar to what Ewan McGregor said when Obi-Wan came out and Moses Ingram was taking the hits. But here's where I'm going to take a slight turn, and I'm dying to get your impression, and I want to hear what people in the chat have to say as well. Here's the challenge. We know this is coming. We know we're going to get pushback. We've seen it from the instant this show was announced. We saw it at Star Wars Celebration over a year ago when Leslie Headland came out on stage. People talking about how they don't like the show. It's got women in it. It's got people of color in it. It's got LGBTQ in it. They try to hide behind saying, it's just a fair criticism. Just because I don't like a character doesn't mean I'm racist or a bigot. And that is true. But if that's what you're leading with before you see a single frame of the film, the only thing you can possibly be basing it on is what you're seeing as represented. My challenge, though, is we are now a week before the show. We are in this hype zone, as we just talked about with Holly and Brian. Does it help? Does it get in the way to be proactively, preemptively striking this particular area of the fandom? And I don't think it's right or wrong. I don't have an answer. I want to discuss it because I'm not sure. To me, it feels like by going to the New York Times and saying, "Hey, it's hard to be a woman in the Star Wars fandom," which is another quote from Kennedy. I paraphrased it. But going down that road when we're just a week away, is it because the trolls and the grifters are already in that zone? Does it make it valuable to get there? Or are they creating some fire that doesn't need to be fanned right now? What are your thoughts, Nick?
Right. I think, well, you said something, the comments from Kennedy, as a woman, hard to be a Star Wars fan. I live in a house with like 27 women. It's hard to be a woman anywhere. I'm telling you right now, like that's the way the world is. There's still, we're still undoing and unbuilding a lot of, patriarchy. And it's not just Star Wars fandom. It's movie fandom. Women have to prove, oh, do you know enough before I'm going to, that's not how it works. That's not, there's gatekeeping. There's all kinds of things. I think to your point in your question, and you go back to like what happened with Obi-Wan and with Moses Ingram and, Ewan in his car doing that video, like she was directly, attacked and harassed and there were some things going on. I think we're at a point where what Leslie Headland said and what Kathleen Kennedy said, I wholeheartedly agree and support. If this is where you start, you're not really a fan. You've missed the point. You've missed the boat. This isn't the spot for you. It's that adage that has been popular in recent years. If you look around the room and try to figure out who the asshole is and you can't, it's probably you.
Right. Well, that's just 100. I mean, that's a great point to bring up, because the only people who are getting pissed off about this, nowhere does she say that that you can't have a fair critique. Let me read the quote exactly so we get it right, because it's important. She says, Kathleen Kennedy says, operating within these giant franchises now, so not just Star Wars, with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying. I think Leslie has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with this a bit more because of the fan base being so male dominated. They sometimes get attacked in ways that can be quite personal. Now, this is where the big the bad the bad intention people come in and say, see, they're saying all male fans are a problem. And again, to what you were saying, Nick, if you think they're talking to you, they
probably are.
Right.
Yes.
If you see that, and that's just really, honestly, that's it. Let's take everybody else out. If I look at that quote, I go, yeah, I can imagine being a woman in a male dominant, because I also see, and we see it with friends of ours. We have many female fans on our social media platforms, and we've become friends with them. And the things that they get thrown at them, it's ugliness. It starts at the most base, gross ways to attack a woman. They start there, and then they say, and you're not a fan. And so it has nothing to do with the characters. It has nothing to do with the people. She's saying it's a difficult thing. But again, leading with that a week before the show, I get it. And I'm not saying it's wrong, because they have to fight it. They have to make more noise than they are, but they're making them make more noise.
And I think this is where we are. And I think this is what I kind of said to you before the show started. And of course, I said a bunch of things. I was like, oh, this is good. I should save it for the show. I think the reality is we're at a point where, like, we need a blanket, like, put it on a piece of stone, put it out, put it on the opening crawl to whatever it is.
Right.
Like what she said, that should just be the Star Wars. That this is our deal going forward.
Right.
If you are mad about diversity, if you're mad about women, if you're mad about inclusivity, this might not be for you. Star Wars, period, end of sentence.
But
because yes, that's how Star Wars, that's how we as Star Wars fans, most of us as Star Wars fans feel. That's what the creators feel. That's what the company ethos appears to be, which is a good thing. I think the challenge, and I think kind of coming back to the point that you're trying to make, is if we have to say it before every show or every new thing that comes out, it feels like it wants to be preemptive in a well-intentioned way.
Sure. Yep.
But what's happening is those shitheads that still exist, and honestly, it's squeaky wheel gets the grease. The ones that are making money off of it, the ones that are getting it for clicks, the ones that are doing whatever, what they're doing is, when Disney or Lucasfilm or somebody makes that comment, they go, oh, they're saying this now. This must be terrible. Right. They're already on life support and it hasn't even dropped yet. It's giving them a bullet in their gun. And it becomes that moment of just going, yeah, we as a company, we as a franchise, we as a property, we are inclusive. We love everybody. We include everybody because it's a big ass universe, galaxy. But I think the challenge is, if every time something new comes out, it has to be a disclaimer, then it just adds more fuel to that fire that we're going. If we would just keep going, maybe some of it would die.
But it's the problem is now it's a vicious cycle. This is where Star Wars fandom is. This is why in common places you see people say things like nobody hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans, because what has happened is we've gotten to a situation where we have, background the sequels. People believed that they were called racists or bigots if they didn't like the story. That's not why they were called racists or bigots. They were called racists and bigots because they were racist and bigots. And then they hid behind that and said, well, that means that the story is crap. And then they were able to create a crusade that said, if I don't like this, it's because I'm on the bigot side of the world. Well, the reality is, and if you watch our 3-hour marathon talking about sequels, I didn't love all the sequels, and not a single piece of it is because there was a black stormtrooper or a woman lead or whatever. And so they have created this vicious cycle. And so now, no matter what happens, by doing the preemptive strike, they can now get out there and say, well, this is because it's crap, and they want to set it up so that we can't dislike it. And it's just it doesn't work, and it can't work, and the problem is they're obligated by being a decent company with and decent human beings to fight back on this. We all are, and this is why I'm not quiet about it. And this is why when people say just turn off your brain, don't look at it, I can't, because of being a decent human being. I have to comment on it. However, this has to become part of the marketing strategy every time Disney and Lucasfilm release something. Is how are we going to combat the assholes that are going to be out there? And that's a shame.
And it's a tough place to be, and I cannot imagine, and I don't envy the job of the marketing folks, the PR folks that are automatically put in that position. Like, it has to be an exhausting way to go, gosh, we're so excited about this show. We're so excited about this thing that's coming out. Oh, wait, but also our excitement has to be a little bit tempered because, oh, yeah, there's this other pocket of, a loud enough group of people to get something that they go, but we have to be prepared for that too.
So I guess then the question becomes, and this is why doing it in the New York Times is why I have a question about it, because is it such a loud voice that it leaks beyond what you and I see on a daily basis on social media? Are the quote unquote common folk who love Star Wars on TV, are they seeing any of it? And if they're not, does creating a story in New York Times where where the average person may not see this sort of content, are they now drawing attention to it? It's like when I hate to name names, but it's like when Star Wars Theory was mentioned on NBC TV for his bigoted comments about women aren't Star Wars fans. It got that level of attention. Suddenly it is in the mainstream. It is no longer just it's no longer just the people in that 15-20% who are all over the content.
I think, and we've said this many times before, I said this recently in another interview with our friend Darth Chaco, was on his show earlier this last week, and said kind of the same thing. These people, yeah, I said that. I went there. These people, the ones that complain, the ones that bring this, that make us have these conversations, these are, for the most part, basement dwelling trolls.
Yeah.
People who don't have happiness in their life. And this is what, their endorphin hit comes from riling somebody up on social media, going after somebody else, screaming into a void that doesn't care, that doesn't want to hear from them. Because when we went to Star Wars, the 2 Star Wars celebrations I've been to, not one person that I encountered, 30, 40,000, 60,000 people, not one person talked about how woke Star Wars was. No one person talked about how diverse Star Wars was, and that I can't believe there's all these women at this convention. It was people there happy to be at Star Wars. The same thing happens with when you talked about, the everyday fan, our dads, I'll beat it into the ground, the our dad litmus test. There's never been a single point when my dad, who consumes mass market, wide appeal Star Wars, has gone, there's a lot of women in this.
All right.
There's a lot of people. What's the deal with all the people of color in this? What's the deal with whatever? My dad's like, oh shit, Star Wars and lightsabers, let's go.
Yeah, I'm there. Yep.
And so the reality is, it's a tough thing because so much of the world is driven and informed, and social media does have a power. You said the same thing, talking about Leslie Headland at Celebration in London and the complaints that came out of the comments that she made. You know who didn't make those complaints? The people that were at Celebration, that were around the live stage, listening to her it was assholes online who wouldn't go to Celebration, couldn't go to Celebration, weren't brave enough to go out of the basement, climb the stairs, get on a plane and go to Celebration, because guess what? The people there, if some of these people, quote unquote, again, these people, if they showed up at a Celebration or a Dragon Con or wherever, they'd get laughed out of the room.
Dude, I would bet I would bet good money that a percentage of these people who hide behind masks and voice changers and do their shows were there because they're Star Wars fans.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I think,
but they may not be. They've somebody who's figured out a way to make easy money by being an asshole. Whether they believe it or not, that's on them. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But they've learned there's a trick to this algorithm.
Yeah.
And you see it in, we've seen it in Donald Trump. We've seen it in so many other versions of the example that I've used for a million years. If you live in the Deep South, you know who Paul Feinbaum is. Paul Feinbaum, for a bunch of years, was a college football journalist who lived in Birmingham, Alabama. And he had a radio show, and it was the classic sports radio show, the regular call-ins, the craziest people you could think of calling in every week to yell about Alabama versus Auburn football. Crazy, unhinged, crazy. But he figured out the ratings, the attention, all the things came from letting Crazy have a voice. And when Crazy had a voice,
right,
his numbers went up, his stock rose enough that at some point when ESPN launched the SEC network, and all of a sudden Paul Feinbaum moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and he hosts a regular SEC network radio show. And it's not what it used to be. It's much more mainstream, wide appeal, because hate gets clicks. Matt's saying it right here. Hate gets clicks and makes money online.
Yeah, for sure.
We've said it before. Partially as a joke, partly as the truth. If you or I decided to make shit up and be assholes online, I wouldn't have to go to work. I could sit at home and make stuff up and it wouldn't matter.
But so the challenge though is Lucasfilm addressing this stuff in mainstream media helping them? Is it helping these guys make money now? Is it helping them get clicks? If they let's put it this way, what if they ignored it? What if Leslie and Kathleen did not mention anything about the bigotry, the misogyny, and the sexism that has come along with Star Wars, specifically this show as it comes? I mean, let's face it, it's somebody pointed out on Twitter today, 4 of the 9 lead roles that were featured are white, are Caucasian, right? But which is still, by the way, that's a safe and okay number.
Right. I'm sorry, but when you said that, the reason I laughed was because all I heard was Blazing Saddles in my head.
Yeah. But so by bringing this up in mainstream, does this help Star Wars? Does it help Leslie? Does it help this show? Or does it only help the assholes who are going to make money, who get to now say, based on that one quote that I read, they hate men. They're blaming men. See, Star Wars does not want men. They want to knock them out. They're calling it a girl brand. They're trying to take a male-dominated show or franchise and make it for girls, when that's not it.
It's tough, and I think that's where I struggle with this, and I don't have an answer fully to the question, because in a situation like this right now, like there's not a direct one-to-one. Like with Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was a Moses Ingram situation.
Yep.
Moses Ingram had been singled out, attacked online. Ewan McGregor stepped up in his car and said, look, we're not going to do this. This is not who we are. This one, it is a little bit preemptive. It feels like they're not really responding to a specific event, but at the same time, Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy, who are females and or non-binary, are responding to the fact that like this is the kind of stuff we've had to deal with in our careers, in our life, in our whatever. So it almost feels like a neutral gain situation for this particular instance. But I agree with you, and kind of coming back to the original point, if we have to do this preemptively every time something comes out, are we signaling for something that may or may not happen? But the reality is,
well, we know it's going to happen though, right?
Shitheads are going to be shitheads.
Yeah.
Carve it in stone, write it down, make a t-shirt out of it, sew it onto your, favorite cross-stitch pillow. Assholes are going to be assholes. Like you can't change that. You can't fix that. But it then becomes the question of, okay, so if they talk about it, if they do their thing, are they giving it more attention than it deserves?
Right. And we certainly don't have an answer, but I will say that it is getting exhausting that every single show, because hey, when Skeleton Crew comes out, there's going to be complaints about that. When Andor season 2 comes out,
I can't wait for the complaints that are Skeleton Crew. Why are all these kids in this?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some sort of craziness there, but But I think that's I think that's all we. I mean, because we don't have an answer, but it is worth to me. It is worth thinking about what the benefit, what the gain is to go there. And again, on the other side, and to be 100% completely fair, it is important. Representation matters very much. So bringing it up as part of the story matters. But again, is it? I don't know. I don't have an answer to it, and it's frustrating because in the effort to create fairness, they have basically fueled flames that were good to the point you made. It was going to happen anyway. So maybe there is value to it. Just get ahead of it, say it, and maybe they're hoping that this goes away before the story starts.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's why there's smarter people than us that are in charge of this. And I do admire and am thankful that Lucasfilm is the company that I see it as, and it appears to be. It does want to be inclusive. It does want to continue, and it has to learn. And they've gone through bumps, and they've gone through roadblocks, and they've gone through rough times of saying the wrong thing, but they haven't backed down from those wrong things or missteps. They've said, we want to push, we want to grow, we want to get better, because, to borrow a phrase, I think from Billy Bob Thornton in Armageddon, it's a big ass sky, it's a big ass galaxy. There's a lot out there, there's a lot going on, and Lucasfilm has continued to say, we're here for everyone. Star Wars is, if you feel comfortable, you're welcome here.
Yep. 100%. And again, I will say it again, and I will, maybe this goes on a t-shirt. If you think that they are calling you a racist and a bigot, they probably are, because you probably have done something to earn that sort of label at that point. So, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. I want to thank Holly and Brian for hanging out with us tonight and giving us their perspective. Nick, we got some really fun news. Next week, we will have all seen The Acolyte, and I can't help but feel like that's going to be a topic next week. And of course, there'll be more news and more things to talk about. And of course, a special guest. So again, if you haven't had a chance and you want to catch our Star Wars sequel, look, Matt's in the chat. He can attest to it. I did get off my lawn a little bit on the Rise of Skywalker.
He actually corrected you. You said 3 hours. He said 3.5 hours.
Yeah, well, it was long.
And I do want to, we normally do some intercepted transmissions. I do have a tiny handful of some chats that I starred as we went through the night. If you will let me run through these very, very quickly.
Sure.
Where are those transmissions you intercepted?
Well done. Well played.
I just
didn't give you enough of a heads up.
Yeah,
it's
I
a
just
good
like
thing.
the thing.
Jasmine chimed in when we were talking about your weekly Star Wars, screenings.
Yes.
Sarlacc popcorn bucket. We saw the release of the Deadpool Wolverine popcorn bucket today, which is everything that Kevin Feige promised it would be. So yeah, let's keep this war going. Let's get a Sarlacc popcorn bucket.
Sure.
Jeff Qualio, if you screen it, we will come. Every Star Wars nerd like me. Yes. Sold. 100%. When we were talking about Andor, Jeff also said, I'm ready for how freaking good the acting is in Andor. And he's right. Yeah. There are some outstanding performances. That Luthen speech haunts me every week or two. That comes back into my head.
Yep.
Matt says, I have to ask random people here in Enid about Star Wars because we don't have a theater here anymore. The Acolyte isn't being shown in any theater in Oklahoma. The closest theater is in Texas.
Wow.
Now, that's understandable. I feel you, Matt. We're not getting it here either. But my favorite thing that Matt has said tonight is some of my best Star Wars chats are in front of the liquor store by my son's Taekwondo dojo. Yeah, it just, it sounds if you're going to stop somebody and randomly ask them about Star Wars, let's let it be in front of a liquor store.
Yes. After years of standing in front of a liquor store saying, hey, mister, can you buy me a bottle? Now it's, hey, mister, Have you heard about Qui-Gon Jinn?
And and our final one is also from Matt. He said, I hear there's a group in the Jersey area of mid-50s men that rant about Rise of Skywalker, and they wear shirts that say somehow Palpatine returns.
Yes, we do. We meet on Wednesdays, which is why the show is on Thursdays.
Gotta be ready.
Gotta be ready for that. Well, Nick, this has been a ton of fun as usual, and I look forward to doing it again next week. But Nick, as we do every week, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.